A few exercise let us do. Okay. They may not appear in your final test, but it is important to do some kind of exercise on the basis of this module. Okay. Let us start with this. With reference to the stratification system of honor in science, which combination is incorrect? One is ratchet effect, which combination is incorrect. Ratchet effect, Nobel Prize winners in science, the 41st chair, an artifact of fixed members of eminent scientists, the Matthew effect, reward and communication system in science, all are correct. Which combination is incorrect? Okay. You will find the last one is incorrect. Okay. Similarly, okay, if you find some problem, you can still write to me, you can question why all are correct. Differential access to means of scientific production leads to a scientific community with equal opportunity, a stratified scientific community, an opportunity structure based on class and status. Okay. Then both B and C, a stratified scientific community as well as an opportunity structure based on class and status. Then scientific achievements and rewards are used as an instrument asset. This refers to what? Scientific achievements and rewards are used as an instrumental asset. More resources for further research, increased influence among peer group, a means to change class and status of a scientist, or all of the above, all of the above. Okay. The Matthew effect can be described as, the Matthew effect in science can be described as misallocation of credit for scientific work, or misallocation of credit for religious practices, misallocation of credit for banking and investment sector, or any kind of misallocations of credit for work irrespective of any sector. Okay. The Matthew effect in science can be described as the misallocation of credit for scientific work. A is correct. Which of the following phrases capture the implications of the Matthew effect? Once a Nobel laureate, always a Nobel laureate. Let us now praise famous men. The rich get richer at a rate that makes the poor become relatively poor, or all of the above, all of the above. Okay. As per the Matthew principle, this is one of the effect when a renowned scientist and a novice collaborate. It diminishes visibility of the renowned scientist, it heightens the reward opportunity for the novice, it increases both visibility and reward opportunity for the both, it heightens visibility but diminishes reward opportunity of the novice. Okay. It heightens visibility but diminishes reward opportunity for the novice. The Matthew effect is dysfunctional in the following conditions. Which following conditions? Scientists at their early stage of their career and aspiring for rewards from their individual contributions, scientists at their early stage of their career and aspiring for rewards for their collaborative discoveries, only A or both A and B? Only A, I mean scientists at their early stage of their career and aspiring for rewards from the individual contributions, only A, or both A and B? Scientists at their early stage of the career and aspiring for rewards from the individual contributions as well as from collaborative discoveries. Okay. Then only A. Okay. Dysfunctional, not functional. The working of the Matthew effect with reference to scientific discoveries emphasizes on doing science is private activity, doing science is public activity, science is both public and private activity and contingent upon one's personal experience and preference, or none of the above. Doing science is a public activity. Okay. Which of the following idea is reinforced by the Matthew principle in the communication system within scientific innovations? Science is socially shared knowledge, science is socially shared but not socially validated knowledge, Science is neither socially shared nor socially validated knowledge. Science is both socially shared and socially validated knowledge. Okay? Science is both socially shared as well as socially validated knowledge. Okay? Which among the following does not explain the social and psychological basis of the Matthew effect? Charisma of an eminent scientist, self-esteem and self-conformity of a young scientist, repeated failures resulting into a psychological damage of a researcher. Eminent scientists tend to develop an immunity towards more and more publications. Repeated failures resulting into a psychological damage for a researcher. The Matthew principle often transformed into an idol of authority and violates the norm of what? Idol of authority. Disinterestedness, universalism, communism, or all of the above. It is universalism. Okay? One of the following is or are not the implications of the Matthew effect. Disparity between renowned and less known scientists reduces. Renowned laboratories attract increased funding for infrastructure. New centers of scientific excellence attract more scientific resources than renowned laboratories, or either B or C. Okay? New centers of scientific excellence attract more scientific resources than renowned laboratories. What is the institutional consequence of the Matthew principle in order to produce new establishments for scientific research? Lessens the concentration of top scientific talent in the existing centers of scientific excellence, produces new centers of scientific excellence, both of the above and none of the above, none of the above. What is the effect of the Matthew principle in the communication system within scientific innovations? Heightens the visibility of contributions by eminent scientists, reduces the visibility of contributions by less well-known scientists, heightens the visibility of contributions by less well-known scientists, or reduces the visibility of contributions by eminent scientists. We are not talking about reward system here, we are talking about communication system here. That is why it heightens the visibility of contributions by less well-known scientists, but if it will be a reward system, in the suppose if the question will be what is the effect of the Matthew principle in the reward system within scientific innovations, then this one will not be right. Okay? In the communication system, it heightens the visibility of contributions by less well-known scientists, okay? But in the reward system, it reduces the visibility of contributions by less well-known scientists. Okay? What we have done some exercise pertaining to this module in the term in so far as the Matthew effect in science in terms of reward and recognition in the form of communication system. Okay. In this module, we have also discussed the Matthew effect in science in terms of, initially the Matthew effect in its generality, then in terms of its cumulative advantage and the symbolism of intellectual property. Okay. Then how such inequalities in science percolate, how inequalities in science lead us to a more focused discussion on how technology is also unequally distributed, how is the design, the way we have already discussed how the public roads in India are designed in such a way that they are anti-pedestrian. The way we have also discussed the construction of the New York Bridge. Okay. Now, the way we are going to look at this structure, that from how a particular technology is socially, economically, politically amplified. In the context of Langdon Winner's work on do artifacts of politics, okay, we will discuss the social shaping of technology. Okay. This is very important. But before social shaping of technology, we will discuss in part technological shaping of society first, then how technological shaping of society must be rejected in favor of the social shaping of technology. Okay. Then when we say technology, technology is essentially socio-technical in nature, and the social and the technical cannot be separated, and any attempt to treat them in isolation would be misleading. Okay. Is it clear? Then what we are going to do, then how a particular technology is politically influenced, how a particular technology is socially shaped, economically determined, okay, culturally influenced, and so on. Okay. Through different examples, we will try to learn what are the thought currents of the ways these two domains of inquiry, namely technology and politics, okay, are interrelated. Before getting into discussion on do artifacts have politics, before getting into the article by Langdon, Winners, do artifacts have politics, how technology has inherent political properties, okay, we'll stay on with some more assignments, some more exercises which are of paramount significance. Okay. Suppose we have discussed certain questions like what is the institutional consequence of the Matthew principle in order to produce new establishments for scientific research, what is the effect of the Matthew principle in the communication system within scientific innovations. I mean, it heightens the visibility of contributions by less well known scientists. Okay. We are talking about communication system, not reward system, okay, in the context of Matthew effect in science, I mean in the context of inequalities in science. Okay. Now, let us come to some more questions. The gap between the haves and the have nots in science may increase due to initial comparative advantage. That you know, that initial comparative advantage of having name and fame, having of being elite scientists. Okay. And what are the factors which contribute to such advantage? Okay. A, structural location, B, trained capacity, C, available resources, and D, all of the above. We know that it is very important to have structural location, trained capacity, and available material resources, and also symbolic resources. Then, if n represents number of scientists and p represents publication, I mean those scientists' publications, if n and p denote the number of scientists and their publications respectively, then inverse square law of scientific productivity refers to n is proportional to p square, p is proportional to n square, p is proportional to n, and both a and b, I mean n is proportional to p square as well as p is proportional to n square. The answer is publication is proportional to the inverse square of scientists. Okay? P is proportional to n square. Then what is the implication of the accumulation of advantage and disadvantage for scientists? What is the implication of the accumulation of advantage and disadvantage for scientists? A, increased productivity in research front tends to shift in administrative role. B, declining productivity in research front tends to shift in administrative role. Thirdly, administrative role in the research is inevitable irrespective of productivity in research, and or D, all of the above. In fact, declining productivity in research front tends to shift in administrative work. Then we are confronted with a question like this, that during the course of an individual's work life as a scientist, the accumulation of advantage and disadvantage results in: 1. The researchers will discontinue publishing, the researchers will discontinue publishing, the researchers will publish at a steady rate as an individual, the annual output, the yearly output of a research group will decline, the yearly output of a research group will increase, or A, option A, only one, only the first one, or on both the second one and the third one, or both second and fourth one, or only the fourth one. It is both second and the third one. The researcher will publish at a steady rate as an individual, as well as the annual output, the yearly output of a research group will decline. The accumulation of advantage is skewed in favor of students from less privileged social strata, middle and upper strata, precocious stature, or none of the above. Precocious stature. We have already discussed these things. If precocity is not rewarded, who among the following youngsters from differing social or ethnic group would go to hardship most? Less privileged social strata, middle strata, upper strata, or all of the above. It is less privileged social strata. The bias towards precocity in educational institutions works profound damage to the youngsters with economic and social advantages. It reflects the condition of a personal problem of the youngsters, latent social problem, manifest social problem, or both A and C, or both personal problem of the youngsters and manifest social problem. It is latent social. If it is an established hypothesis that rewarding early signs of ability has a serious consequences to the students from less privileged strata, then still it tends to persist. The reason may be traditional action, purposive social action with anticipated or intended consequences. C, purposive social action with anticipated with unanticipated and unintended consequences, or both B and C, purposive social action with anticipated or intended consequences, as well as purposive social action with anticipated or rather purposive social action with unanticipated as well as or unintended consequences. D, both A and B. Both A and B, both traditional action as well as purposive social action with anticipated or intended consequences. It is purposive social action with unanticipated and unintended consequences. In fact, we will discuss purposive social action in the lectures to follow before we get into do artifacts of politics of Langdon Winner, because Weber will be a precursor to such things, and Merton cannot be evaluated independently. Merton has to be situated against the backdrop of Weberian methodology in the social sciences, and we will definitely discuss Weberian's methodology in social sciences before we get into do artifacts of politics. Okay. Stratified distribution of chances among the scientists operates to maintain a class structure in science, or create a process of social selection in science, or allocate resource and reward, or all of the above. It is all of the above. The accumulative advantage and disadvantage tend to reduce inequalities in allocation of resources, or tend to accentuate inequalities in science and learning, or equalize peer recognition and scientific productivity, or disregard precocity. It is the accumulation of advantage and disadvantage tend to accentuate inequalities in science and learning. The process of accumulation of advantage and disadvantage among scientific institutions leads to concentration of material resources at selected elite universities, B. proportionate sharing of human resources among all universities, C. concentration of both human and material resources at elite universities, D. proportionate sharing of material resources among all universities. Okay? It is the process of accumulation of advantage and disadvantage among scientific institutions that leads to concentration of both human and material resources at elite universities. Countervailing processes refer to what? Countervailing processes may refer to the closure of the endless accumulation of the advantages, B. the closure of the endless accumulation of the disadvantages, C. check on the systems growing at exponential rates, or all of the above. It is all of the above. If processes of accumulating advantage and disadvantage are truly at work, there are not even greater inequalities than have been found to obtain. The reason for this is the Matthew effect, B. countervailing processes, C. disfavor for precocity, or all of the above. It is the countervailing processes. Countervailing processes manifest in the form of what? Option number 1, premature replacement of an elite. Option B, competition within universities. Option C, competition among universities. Option D, all of the above. It is all of the above. I mean, countervailing processes manifest in the form of all these three. I mean, premature replacement of the elite, competition both within and among universities. The paradox of private property in science refers to what? What do we mean by the paradox of private property in science? Once private property is established by giving away its substance away, once private property is established by appropriating others' contribution, once private property is established when it is accepted into the common fund of knowledge, once, and number 4, fourth option is once private property is established when it is kept aside from the common fund of knowledge. Only one, I mean once private property is established by giving away its substance away, or only 1 and 3, I mean once private property is established by giving away its substance away, or and as well as once private property is established when it is accepted into the common fund of knowledge. Option C says only 2 and 4, I mean once private property is established by appropriating others' contribution, as well as once private property is established when it is kept out aside from the common fund of knowledge, or only 4, I mean once private property is established when it is kept aside from the common fund of knowledge. It is only 1 and 3, I mean once private property is established by giving away its substance, by giving its substance away, and once private property is established when it is accepted into the common fund of knowledge. Then the question may arise like this: the symbolism of intellectual property reflects in following institutional practices of citations, references, bibliographic accounts, or all of the above. It is all of the above. I mean the symbolism of intellectual property is reflected in terms of citations, references, and bibliographic accounts. Symbolic institutional function of the intellectual property system of science involves what? Directing readers to the sources of knowledge, assessing the knowledge claims, ideas, and findings. C. Providing the peer recognition to maintain intellectual tradition of acknowledging others' contribution, or D. Only A and B, I mean directing readers to the sources of knowledge as well as assessing the knowledge claims, ideas, and findings. It is only C, I mean C is the answer, providing the peer recognition to maintain intellectual tradition of acknowledging others' contributions. Instrumental cognitive function of the intellectual property system of science involves From symbolic institutional function, we are coming to instrumental cognitive function of the intellectual property system of science. What does it involve? Directing readers to the sources of knowledge, or assessing the knowledge claims, ideas and findings. C. Providing the peer recognition to maintain intellectual tradition of acknowledging others' contributions, or D. Only A and B, I mean directing readers to the sources of knowledge as well as assessing the knowledge claims, ideas and findings. It is only A and B. Now, are you able to follow the difference between symbolic institutional function on the one hand and instrumental cognitive function of the intellectual property system of science? Okay? In the realm of intellectual properties of science, legitimate appropriation of the property accounts, in the realm of intellectual property of science, legitimate appropriation of the property accounts for what? Scientists can use others' work and need not acknowledge that work as it is communally accessible. Scientists cannot use others' work if they are not acknowledging that work even if it is communally accessible. Scientists can use others' work and need to acknowledge that work irrespective of its open accessibility, or all of the above account for legitimate appropriation. It is scientists can use others' work and need to acknowledge that work irrespective of its open accessibility. In the realm of intellectual property of science, illegitimate expropriation of the property accounts for what? Scientists can use others' work and need not acknowledge that work as it is communally accessible. Scientists cannot use others' work if they are not acknowledging that work even if it is communally accessible. Scientists can use others' work and need to acknowledge that work irrespective of its open accessibility, or none of the above account for illegitimate appropriation. I mean, scientists can use others' work and need not acknowledge that work as it is communally accessible. It is an illegal or illegitimate expropriation of the property, intellectual property. Okay? Now, before we move on to the relationship between technology and politics, how technological artifacts have inherent political properties, let us first discuss Weberian methodology, which is very important in social science research, in the ways in which Merton carried out his research on the interaction between science and society. Okay?